Now, what happens if you're a buyer in today's crazy hot Toronto real estate market?
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jordan from the JP Homes team with RE/MAX, back with another edition of our weekly real estate Q&A. Today we're going to talk about conditional offers. Conditions are requirements that are put into agreements of purchase and sales by the buyer to make sure that they have the ability to go through and satisfy themselves on whatever these certain requirements or conditions are, that they're confident and comfortable that they can move ahead and proceed with the deal. So let's talk and break it down a little bit. So a condition, as I mentioned, is a requirement that needs to be satisfied generally by the buyers before a sale can firm up and a deal can be firm and binding. Some typical conditions that we see here in the GTA, there's two really common ones. One is a condition on finance. So that's for the buyer to ensure that they're able to get the mortgage or get the financing that they need to buy the house at the agreed upon purchase price. And the second one is condition on inspection. So giving the buyers the ability to bring a home inspector in, review the house, make sure that there are no major issues or concerns or anything like that with the house. So those are the two most common conditions we deal with. There are lots of other ones given certain circumstances. So with this requirements or conditions, what needs to happen if you have an offer accepted and you have the conditions? Generally, let's say 5 business days, which is a common amount of time. In those 5 business days, the buyer has the ability to speak to their mortgage broker, speak to their bank, and make sure that they're able to get the financing and the money for that purchase price that they agreed upon. Also gives them an opportunity, if the financer or the lender needs to send an appraiser in to make sure that the house appraises at a value that's in line with what the sale price is. And the second one is a home inspection. So the buyer has the ability to hire their own home inspector, bring them into the house, go through the house, look at everything, and make sure that there are no major blaring issues at the house that could be a concern or could creep up on them later on. So with these two conditions, let's say we've done that. We've looked at the conditions, we've gone through, everything looks great. All the buyer then needs to do is sign a waiver, a notice of fulfillment that these conditions are fulfilled, and we can go ahead and the deal firms up and everybody moves on. The sellers start packing, the buyers start getting ready to move, and everybody's happy. But what happens in the cases where something does come up or something arises during this conditional period? So if there is an issue with financing as they're looking at their financing or dealing with their mortgage brokers or banks, there could be a problem and there could be an inability for the buyers to actually come through on closing. If there is an issue, if a buyer does a deal and cannot come through, cannot get the money, or even with an inspection, if there's a major issue and they say, no way, I don't want to get involved in this, in that condition, it states that they have the sole right to not waive this condition, not firm up the deal, cancel the deal is null and void, nobody is obligated to anybody anymore, and any deposit that has been given already is returned to the buyer without deduction or penalty. So if you've given a deposit already, let's say you had a $50,000 deposit given to the listing brokerage, you don't want to proceed with the deal because you can't get the financing. Once the deal dies or it doesn't go through, you have a mutual release and the buyer gets back that full $50,000. There's no deduction penalties or anything like that on it.
Now, if you're a buyer in today's crazy hot Toronto real estate market, you're probably thinking, can I still have a condition in an offer? Well, let's look at it this way. If you're competing against 3, 5, 10, or 20 offers, chances are that the seller is going to want to see something that's a firm offer, and there's a good possibility that somebody that you're competing against is willing to do that. Now, yes, there are risks involved in sending in an offer with no conditions. There are some ways to make sure that you're mitigating your risk as much as possible, like making sure with financing you're pre-approved, you know how much you can spend, you're setting yourself a limit. I mean, if you're going to buy a $50,000 car and you can afford that, you're not going shopping for Lamborghinis and Ferraris. So the same kind of thing with houses. If you know you're approved up to a certain point, make sure that you're keeping within that so you have that confidence. And then from an inspection point of view, in some cases, the listing agents will have a pre-inspection done, which is great. It gives you a good idea of the house. In some cases, you can even call back that inspector to come and walk through the house with you and explain anything that they've found in the house. In a lot of cases, you also do have the ability to do a pre-home inspection, which is, again, you bring your own inspector in before the offer date and get your home inspection so that you can go in with confidence, knowing that you've seen the ins and outs of the house and you know what's going on, what's right and what's wrong in the house. Again, whenever possible, I always recommend, having conditions are great because they do protect you. But I know that in this crazy hot real estate market, in some cases, if you want the opportunity to win, it's not as easy to have them included. So it's something to consider. It's a conversation to have with your agent, with your mortgage broker before or as you start home buying, because they are factors that can come up and that are important. I hope that's helped. If you have any questions, please reach out to me anytime. Throw some comments, like and comment on all of these videos. And I hope you have a great week. And I'll see you next week for next week's weekly Q&A.